All right, so welcome to another deep dive. And today we're tackling a topic that so many of you have requested, Samantha Clarke's super popular YouTube video, 10 Habits That Changed My Life.
Oh, this one's really resonated with people. Millions of views.
I know, right? It seems like she's really hit a nerve, especially with folks who are, just starting to dip their toes into the whole wellness thing.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
she makes it seem so approachable.
Yeah, exactly. But, we like to go a little deeper here.
Absolutely.
Beyond just like the surface level. So let's dive in. Habit number 1, gratitude.
Mhm.
Samantha is all about starting your day by really visualizing what you're grateful for before you even get out of bed.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I'm usually reaching for my phone first thing.
Yeah. It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Really?
But, there's a whole bunch of studies showing that even just a few minutes of gratitude practice can have a real impact.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so, what kind of impact are we talking?
Well, for example, there was this study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology that found that people who practice gratitude regularly, they reported fewer physical health complaints. They had a more optimistic outlook on life. It's like hitting the reset button for your mind.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Instead of immediately scrolling through social media and getting bombarded with who knows what, right? You're starting your day by focusing on what you have to be grateful for.
Right. It just sets a more positive tone.
Totally.
And it's not like it has to be this big, complicated thing either. Like a simple gratitude journal can be super effective.
Oh, yeah.
Just jotting down a few things that you're thankful for each day can really help shift your focus from what you're lacking to what you have.
That's good. So speaking of starting the day on a positive note, Samantha's a big advocate for affirmations, positive self-talk.
Oh, absolutely.
And she even recommends listening to them on YouTube.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
It's a little unusual, but I kind of get it.
Yeah, it might seem a little quirky, but when you think about it, we are constantly being bombarded with messages, both externally from the world around us and also internally from our own thoughts. So consciously choosing to listen to positive affirmations, it can be like a way to counteract the negative self-talk that we all experience from time to time. And, it can really boost your self-esteem. And it's not even just about manifesting things into existence, although that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
But it's really about reframing that internal dialogue to support your goals, and just your overall well-being.
I know. I've definitely noticed, when I catch myself thinking negatively, it can spiral pretty quickly. So do you think that shifting that self-talk, you think it can actually impact your ability to, actually achieve things?
Oh, absolutely. There's research that shows a strong link between positive self-talk and improved performance in all sorts of areas. And we're talking academics to athletics. For example, athletes who use positive self-talk, they tend to persevere longer during those tough workouts, and they experience less anxiety during competitions.
Makes sense. Well, Samantha, she shares this great example of how she used affirmations to improve her skin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she says that she would repeat phrases like, "My skin is clear and radiant," every single day.
And you know what? That kind of ties into this whole idea of visualization, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Which can be a really powerful tool for change. By consistently visualizing the outcome that you want, you're essentially training your brain to believe it's possible. And then that can make you more likely to take the actions needed to actually achieve it.
So it's like mind over matter.
In a way, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these habits can kind of work together, It's not just about thinking happy thoughts. It's about consciously shaping your mindset to support your goals.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of brings us to habit number 3, which I think is especially relevant in today's world.
What's that?
Intentional phone time. So Samantha encourages, being mindful of how you use your phone instead of just getting sucked into endless scrolling.
She even recommends setting timers for social media apps, which I have to say I really need. But I'm curious, is there actual scientific evidence that all that scrolling is bad for us?
Oh, there's a growing body of research that shows a pretty clear correlation between excessive social media use and increased anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances. And it can also negatively impact our attention span, our ability to focus.
So it's not just about wasting time, it's actually affecting our mental and physical health.
Right, and I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. Samantha talks about using social media with a purpose, like connecting with friends or finding inspiration. Do you think that's, more of a balanced approach?
I think so. It's about taking control of your technology use rather than letting it control you, Setting boundaries, like limiting your scrolling time or using those apps with a specific goal in mind can help you maintain a healthier relationship with technology overall.
It really makes you wonder, like, how many of us are actually using our phones intentionally versus just mindlessly scrolling out of habit?
Yeah, that's a great question to kind of sit with, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to fall into that trap, especially when you're stressed or bored. But by just becoming more aware of our phone habits, we can start making more conscious choices about how we spend our time and our energy.
That actually leads perfectly into Samantha's next habit, which is all about disconnecting from technology and reconnecting with nature.
Oh, and this is where the science really gets interesting. I mean, numerous studies have shown that spending time in nature has a profound impact on our mental and physical well-being. It can reduce stress, improve mood, boost creativity, and even lower blood pressure.
Wow. And Samantha suggests, incorporating nature into our daily routines, even if it's just, taking a walk during our lunch break or having our morning coffee outside.
You know what? Even small doses can be beneficial.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
For most of human history, we've been immersed in nature, right?
Right.
It's only recently that we've become so disconnected. So it's like our bodies and our minds are actually craving that connection.
Yeah, I know. I always feel like more relaxed and just clear-headed after spending time outdoors, even if it's just a quick walk in the park.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this grand adventure. Just noticing the trees, listening to the birds, feeling the sun on your skin. It can be really grounding.
Okay, so we've got gratitude, affirmations, mindful phone use, and connecting with nature. It sounds like Samantha's like building a foundation for a healthier lifestyle, like step by step.
Exactly. And that foundation is key because it sets the stage for the next habit, which is all about movement.
Oh, yeah.
Samantha, she emphasizes the power of walking as a starting point for people who, maybe aren't used to exercising regularly.
Okay, so like baby steps.
Exactly.
Okay.
She suggests starting with 3 walks a week and then gradually incorporating some 20-minute workouts. She even mentions something called habit stacking. Have you ever heard of that?
Habit stacking? No.
Well,
What
yeah.
is that?
Well, it's this technique where you link a new habit to an already established one. So, for example, if you wanted to start meditating for 5 minutes every day, you could habit stack it onto your morning coffee routine. So you meditate right after you finish your coffee.
Oh, that's interesting. So like you're basically using an existing habit as a trigger for a new one.
Exactly.
It's like building this chain reaction of positive behavior.
Exactly. And it's a great way to make new habits feel less daunting, more integrated into your life.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I can definitely see how that would be really helpful for someone who's, trying to establish a regular exercise routine. Like instead of feeling like you have to carve out like this huge chunk of time, you're just adding a small activity onto something you're already doing.
Yeah, and the beauty of starting with walking is that it's accessible to almost everyone. It doesn't require any special equipment or gym memberships or anything like that.
And it gets you outside, which we already know has like tons of benefits.
Right, it's a win-win.
So we've got a solid foundation with gratitude, affirmations, nature, now movement. It's amazing how these like seemingly simple habits can have this ripple effect on our well-being. So what's next on Samantha's list?
Well, next, she tackles another really fundamental aspect of health.
Okay.
Hydration.
Okay. I was waiting for that one.
Yeah, and she keeps it pretty simple. With her top tip, drink 2 glasses of water as soon as you wake up.
That is simple, and that's something I really struggle with. I'm really not a big water drinker. I know I should be.
Right.
So, like, why is hydration so crucial?
Well, I mean, our bodies are about 60% water.
Really?
So staying hydrated is just essential for pretty much every bodily function. We're talking regulating temperature, transporting nutrients, you name it. Even mild dehydration can lead to, like, fatigue, headaches, and difficulty concentrating.
Oh, so that explains why I'm always so sluggish in the afternoon.
Could be. And you know what? Samantha also mentions how dehydration can contribute to mineral loss.
Really?
We lose electrolytes through sweat and urine. And it's important to replenish those minerals, to maintain proper function.
Okay, I'm convinced.
2 glasses.
2 glasses, first thing.
There you go.
It's such a simple habit, but, clearly has a big impact.
Absolutely.
So what's next on our deep dive?
Well, the Samantha, she then moves on to a habit that I think a lot of people find really beneficial, but they often struggle to maintain.
Okay.
And that's journaling.
Okay. I've dabbled in journaling before, but I often find myself getting stuck or just not knowing what to write about. Does Samantha offer any tips for making it more effective?
Yeah, absolutely. She suggests using guided journals. There's some really great ones out there like the 5-minute journal. It provides prompts and structure. Or, you can even create your own prompts based on what you want to explore.
She even mentions having a daily check-in journal where she reflects on her day and identifies areas for growth. So she's using journaling as a tool for self-awareness and accountability.
Exactly. That's where the real power of journaling lies, in my opinion. It's not just about venting or recording events. It's about digging a little deeper, exploring your thoughts and feelings, and then gaining insights into your own patterns and behaviors.
Oh, yeah. Because by putting your thoughts and feelings down on paper, you're forced to confront them, right?
Yeah.
And maybe see things from a new perspective.
Exactly. And that self-awareness is crucial for personal growth and just making positive changes in your life.
This is fascinating. I'm starting to see how each of these habits kind of builds on the previous one, creating this more holistic approach to well-being.
Exactly. And that brings us to a habit that often generates a lot of discussion: supplements.
Ah, supplements. Yeah, this is one where I know people have strong opinions. What's Samantha's take on it?
Well, she shares her top 4 recommendations:
Okay.
greens powder, magnesium, vitamin D, and probiotics.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that these are just suggestions, and they're based on her own personal experience, right?
Right. We're not medical professionals here. It's always best to consult with your doctor before starting any new supplement regime.
Absolutely. What I thought was fascinating was how she talked about her experience with magnesium. She said that it significantly reduced her menstrual cramps.
Oh, wow. That's something that a lot of people struggle with, It's interesting how supplements can play a role in addressing specific health concerns.
Yeah, and while Samantha's experience is certainly valuable, it's important to remember that everyone's body is different. What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's crucial to approach supplements with caution and, make sure you're making informed decisions.
So it's about finding that balance between exploring different options, but also prioritizing safety and professional guidance.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to a habit that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included.
Yeah.
Breathwork and meditation. Samantha talks about incorporating stillness into daily life to reduce stress, improve focus.
I've tried meditation apps before, but I don't know, I always find my mind just racing.
Does Samantha offer any advice for beginners who might feel kind of intimidated by these practices?
Oh, absolutely. She recommends starting small and finding a practice that feels comfortable for you. It could be something as simple as listening to calming music or doing guided meditations, or even just focusing on your breath for a few minutes each day. The key is consistency and finding what resonates with you.
She mentions a specific breathwork app that she uses, actually. I'm kind of curious to try that out. I've heard so much about, the benefits of breathwork,
It's definitely worth exploring.
but I've never really tried it.
There's a growing body of research showing the positive impact of breathwork on stress levels, sleep quality, emotional regulation. It's a really powerful tool for calming the nervous system and just promoting that sense of well-being.
It's amazing how something as simple as breathing can have, such a profound effect on our overall health.
Yeah, and that brings us to Samantha's final habit.
Which is all about mindful consumption of information.
Okay.
So she emphasizes being really selective about the content we allow into our minds, and opting for podcasts, books, things that promote personal growth and inspiration.
Yeah, she specifically mentions starting with fiction books to get back into the habit of reading, and then gradually incorporating more motivational or self-help books. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just constantly bombarded with news and social media updates, and it can be super overwhelming.
I know, it's like we're drowning in information.
Yeah.
But we're starving for wisdom. So by consciously choosing to consume content that uplifts us, that inspires us, we're essentially nourishing our minds with positivity and knowledge.
It's almost like creating this mental filter to block out the noise and focus on what really matters.
Exactly. And that's such a powerful skill to cultivate in today's world.
Yeah, it is. Well, there you have it.
There you go.
Samantha Clarke's 10 Habits for a Healthier Lifestyle.
Pretty impressive list.
Yeah, it is. And I think even incorporating a few of these habits into your routine could make a noticeable difference.
Absolutely. But instead of, feeling overwhelmed by trying to do everything at once, Let's focus on one key question. Which of these habits resonates most with you right now?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder as we move into the next part of our deep dive.
We'll be back to explore some specific strategies and resources that can help you implement these habits and create lasting change. One thing I find really refreshing about Samantha's approach is how she emphasizes progress over perfection.
Totally.
Like she's really open about the fact that it's taken her years to cultivate these habits.
Yeah.
And that she still struggles sometimes.
Well, that definitely makes her so much more relatable.
Right.
It's easy to get discouraged when you see all these picture-perfect wellness gurus
Oh, I know.
who seem to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But Samantha's honesty is just so refreshing.
It's a good reminder that, building a healthier lifestyle, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Not a destination. It's about making small, sustainable changes over time and being kind to yourself along the way.
And she also talks about the importance of, rewarding yourself for sticking to those new habits.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like positive reinforcement, right?
Exactly.
If you only focus on what you haven't achieved yet,
Yeah,
it's easy to lose motivation.
totally. And celebrating those small wins can really help you stay on track and reinforce those positive behaviors.
So it's like you're training your brain to associate those healthy habits with positive feelings.
Exactly.
Okay, so instead of beating yourself up for not being perfect,
Yeah,
you're acknowledging your efforts and giving yourself credit for the progress you've made.
precisely. It's about shifting from a mindset of self-criticism to one of self-compassion.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a more supportive and encouraging approach.
And it's much more effective in the long run.
Yeah.
When you approach your wellness journey with kindness and understanding, you're more likely to stick with it, even when things get tough.
So as we've been diving into Samantha's 10 habits, it's clear that she's not advocating for a complete life overhaul.
No, not at all.
It's more about finding those small, manageable changes that can have a big impact over time.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not about deprivation or, striving for some unattainable ideal.
Yeah.
It's about making choices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit and just make you feel good.
And it's about recognizing that those choices might look different for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to wellness.
That's such an important point to emphasize.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others or feeling like we have to do everything perfectly. But Samantha's approach is much more individualized and adaptable.
It's about empowerment, not pressure.
Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious, what personally resonates with you from Samantha's advice?
Oh, that's a good question. What are some things you do to stay healthy and balanced in your own life? Well, for me, one thing that's been incredibly helpful is establishing a consistent morning routine.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What does your morning routine look like?
Well, it's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
I start with a few minutes of meditation, usually guided by an app. Then I do some light stretching or yoga,
Okay.
followed by a healthy breakfast. If I have time, I'll also journal for a few minutes or read something inspiring.
Oh, that sounds so peaceful and intentional.
Yeah.
Do you find that having that routine makes a big difference in how you feel throughout the day?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like setting an intention for the day and creating a sense of calm before the busyness sets in.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't have to be elaborate or anything.
Right.
Even just 5 or 10 minutes of mindful breathing or a short walk outside could have a significant impact on your mood and energy levels.
It's about finding those small practices that nourish you and fit into your lifestyle.
Exactly. And those practices might even change over time, as your needs evolve.
Yeah.
The key is to be flexible and listen to your body and mind.
So as we move into the next part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, first and foremost, remember that creating a healthier lifestyle is a journey, not a destination. It's about progress, not perfection.
Right.
And it's about making those small, sustainable changes over time, rather than trying to overhaul everything at once.
I love that. It's a much more approachable and realistic perspective.
And equally important, be kind to yourself along the way.
Yeah.
Celebrate your successes, no matter how small they seem, and be patient with yourself when you stumble.
Yeah.
Remember, we're all works in progress.
Self-compassion is key.
Yes.
It's so easy to get caught up in that self-criticism.
I know.
And focus on our shortcomings.
Yeah.
But that only makes the journey more difficult.
Absolutely. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are so many resources available.
Right.
From books and podcasts to online communities and support groups.
Yeah.
Connect with others who are on a similar journey. Share your struggles and triumphs, and learn from one another.
That's a great point. Having a supportive community can make all the difference.
And finally, remember that even small changes,
Mm-hmm.
like incorporating more gratitude, movement, and mindfulness into your day, can have a profound impact on your overall well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every journey starts with a single step.
Mm-hmm.
So what's one small step you can take today to move towards a healthier, happier you?
That's a great question to ponder as we move into the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll be exploring some specific strategies and resources that can help you implement these habits and create lasting change.
I'm excited to delve even deeper. Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Samantha Clarke's 10 habits for a healthier lifestyle.
We've explored the science behind these habits, considered their potential benefits.
Right. But now let's shift gears and get a little more practical. How can our listeners actually implement these habits and make them stick?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the benefits, but it's a whole other thing to actually put them into practice consistently.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Samantha talks about starting small and choosing one or two habits to focus on at a time. What are your thoughts on that approach?
I think it's great advice. Trying to change too many things at once can be so overwhelming, and it often leads to burnout.
Yeah.
It's much more sustainable to focus on building one habit at a time until it becomes second nature before moving on to the next one.
Right. So let's say our listener is feeling inspired to incorporate more gratitude into their life. Where would you recommend they start?
Well, one simple strategy is to keep a gratitude journal. Each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things that you're grateful for. They can be big or small. It could be anything from a delicious meal to a heartfelt conversation with a loved one.
I've tried gratitude journaling before, and it really is amazing how it can shift your perspective. It helps you appreciate all those good things in your life that we often take for granted.
It's a really powerful practice. And it doesn't even have to be limited to writing, You could also incorporate gratitude into your daily conversations by, expressing thanks to the people around you, or even just taking a moment to appreciate the beauty of nature around you.
Oh, I like that. What about movement? Samantha really emphasizes the importance of getting our bodies moving, even if it's just starting with walking.
Yeah, walking is fantastic, but it's also important to find activities that you genuinely enjoy.
Right.
If you hate running, don't force yourself to do it.
Right, life's too short.
Exactly. Explore different options,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's dancing, swimming, biking, or whatever it is that gets you moving and feels good.
The key is to make it fun, right?
Exactly.
If you enjoy it, you're way more likely to stick with it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't have to spend hours at the gym to reap the benefits of exercise.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Right. Even short bursts of activity throughout the day can make a huge difference.
Okay, like what? Give us some examples.
Well, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Go for a walk during your lunch break. Do some stretches while you're watching TV.
Okay, those are good ones. Yeah, actually, Samantha mentions habit stacking as a way to make exercise more manageable. Can you remind us what that is again?
Oh, yeah. So habit stacking is basically just linking a new habit to an existing one.
Right, right.
So, for example, you could do 10 squats every time you brush your teeth, or take a brisk walk after every lunch each day.
That's a brilliant strategy. It makes it much easier to remember and incorporate the new habit into your routine.
Exactly.
Okay. Now let's talk about mindfulness. Samantha's a big advocate for breathwork and meditation, but any tips for beginners who might feel a little intimidated by these practices?
Sure. It's perfectly normal for your mind to wander, especially when you're first starting out. The key is to simply notice those thoughts without judgment.
Okay.
And then gently guide your attention back to your breath or the object of your meditation.
So it's not about emptying your mind completely.
No, not at all. It's more about becoming aware of your thoughts and feelings and learning to observe them without getting carried away by them.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a lot better. Any other tips for making meditation more approachable?
Yeah, I would say start small. Even just a few minutes of focused breathing can be incredibly beneficial. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and just pay attention to the sensation of your breath as you inhale and exhale. And you can also try guided meditations. There are tons of apps and online resources available.
Samantha also talks about the importance of being mindful of the information we consume. It's so easy to get caught up in negativity or spend hours scrolling through those social media feeds that leave us feeling, kind of drained and empty.
It's so true. It's really crucial to be intentional about what we're allowing into our minds.
So how do we do that?
Well, one strategy is to set some limits on your social media use. You can even schedule specific times during the day to check your feeds rather than constantly scrolling throughout the day.
Okay. And what about books and podcasts? Samantha recommends choosing those that promote personal growth and inspiration.
Yeah. And there are so many incredible resources out there these days. I would say look for authors and speakers and podcasts that resonate with you. You know, things that align with your values. And instead of, mindlessly scrolling through social media, spend that time reading an uplifting book or listening to an inspiring podcast.
It's about nourishing our minds with positivity and knowledge, instead of that junk food for the brain.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey. Be patient with yourself, celebrate your progress, and don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring Samantha Clarke's 10 habits for a healthier lifestyle and delving into some practical strategies for implementing them.
Yeah, we've talked about gratitude, movement, mindfulness, intentional technology use, and the importance of nourishing ourselves with positive input.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what is the one message you'd like to leave our listener with?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Creating a healthier lifestyle. It isn't about striving for perfection or, making those drastic changes overnight. It's really about making small, sustainable choices each day that align with your values and support your well-being.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And it's about embracing the journey with self-compassion and a sense of curiosity.
Absolutely. And remember, you have the power to make positive changes in your life, starting today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking those small steps towards a healthier, happier you.